Bonjour et bienvenue. Voici ma vidéo en français pour la semaine dernière. And yeah, it's been a good week. I feel like I've made again lots of progress. In terms of my French, I feel like I'm kind of reaching a critical mass of Frenchness, which if I just went a little bit further, then I would be able to start really kind of engaging and learning from French itself rather than having to kind of translate back into English as much, if that makes sense. It's almost like you get to a point where you've got enough to then actually learn from the language rather than from your language into that language. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. I just feel like I've got enough words inside me that I can actually make progress within itself, within the language itself. Like when you learn a new word in your native language, I could say, you know, I could find the explanation of that word in French, and I think I could understand. You know, if you looked in the dictionary and looked at a definition of a word, I think I could look in a French dictionary for a definition of a French word and understand that definition now, which is good. I'm getting to that point, so I think learning will become a lot easier once I've kind of reached that hilltop, as to say. Spoken wise, I feel like my French is coming on a lot, and I'm going to say it out loud. I'm honestly thinking that in the next month or so, I could possibly, if I keep making as much progress, make a video in French. I could do it now, and I could, you know, if I was doing it off the top of my head, it would be very slow. I find that what happens at the moment when I'm speaking French is when I'm trying to speak like I do in English, finding the right words naturally to then progress the statements onwards is quite difficult, because you get to a point where you're thinking, oh well, where do I go from here, and how do I, you know, and then you're stuck and you kind of hit this wall and you're kind of like, yeah, how do I go further on from this point? And then it's almost like my head just empties, and all words, I just have nothing, no tools. I have nothing. I can't do anything, and I have to sort of retreat. That's probably the hardest point at the moment. It's just, yeah, you kind of can start quite well. I can add more bits in, and then when I get to a point where I'm kind of like, so yeah, it's just how you progress, I suppose. So what else have I been doing? So I've been reading my book. I've got this book, Aragon, which in French is Aragon. Sounds a lot more exotic. Basically, it's a fantasy book. It was made into a film a while ago. The film wasn't great, but the book is much better, and that seems to be the case for all kind of films, books, things. But yes, I've been enjoying that. I've actually been enjoying it as a book, which is really cool, because I always, you know, when I don't know if I said this last week, but I thought that reading it in French would, because my French is so, well, basic at the moment for reading a fantasy novel, that I wouldn't be able to imagine, you know, I wouldn't be able to get into the place of where I am, where that person is, and all that kind of stuff. There are sentences and phrases which kind of pull me back out of the kind of imaginary environment, because it's really hard to when you're kind of reading along and you're like, oh, I can picture them, they're in the woods, you know, he's doing this, he's hiding behind a tree, all those kind of things, and then suddenly there'll be a phrase and it'll be like, I have no idea what that means, and so therefore it's almost like in my head the scene pauses, and I'm sort of read this bit, and then I can kind of jump, and then yeah, it kind of pauses until after the bit I don't understand, which can be bad in the way that the story flows, because then I'm thinking, are these guys enemies or are these guys friends? Are they with him or are they against him? You know, there was a brilliant phrase in the book actually, which I was like, oh, it instantly made sense to me. It was like, it was like he was in a high place and he looked across. You saw like a view. You had the fields and such like that, and it said like. And it unrolled like a map before his eyes, because he knew the area so well, he understood the place, he could place things, and he understood where everything was, so he could see it, you know, as a map in his mind. And that was really cool to have that, because that's how, you know, that's how it'd work in English, and it was really cool little recognition, I suppose, on my point. So yeah, the book's been really good. Really good progress there. I've also been, well, I started watching probably from the end by mistake. I should be watching it from the beginning. But the best or the greatest patisserie chef. It's basically like MasterChef in the UK, but in French, obviously, and in France. And what they're looking for is the person who can make the best, most awesome looking cakes. So finding that is really good for me, because I find shows like the Great British Bake Off or things like that a bit kind of dumbed down. I feel like it's something I could do, and so therefore I don't feel like there's much, when you see the patisserie chefs working their magic and they're making things which are beautiful, immaculate, and incredibly intricate. It's just incredible. Yeah, it blows my mind, and I just want to eat them all because I love cake. So there's two things there which I really appreciate, and so yeah, it's been really good. French wise, it's very fast. It's very fast. And it depends actually, because there are 4 judges, and their accents vary because obviously they're from different places, and it's interesting to see which ones I understand better than the other ones. I kind of understand them all to a certain point, but yes, there's definitely like the younger guy as someone I can understand a lot more clearly. There was a guy who I don't know where he was from. He might have actually been Belgian, Laurent, I don't know, you can correct me on that. But he had a very different accent. There's another guy actually with a lisp like me, and my God, that was hard to understand. It's crazy to think, to see that and to recognise that people having these different accents, and then thinking about the UK and how varied our accents are, must be a nightmare to try and learn English, because you could learn English from American kind of like television, or which a lot of people do, and then come to England and have no idea what people are saying. And then you've got all the colloquialisms from different cities. I mean, like, I couldn't go to Newcastle and speak to someone from Newcastle in a kind of like a colloquial Newcastleian dialect. I couldn't do it because I wouldn't understand. Here we've got Scots and Doric. Doric is harder to understand because I haven't got a clue what Doric, if someone's speaking Doric as a dialect, it's completely past me. Scots I can understand now. It's taken a little while, there are a few things that are different. But yeah, having those different kind of accents and things like that, it really puts into perspective how hard English must be to learn. Respect. So, what else have we been doing? Memrise as well. I've just been I've got these 400 verbs, most used verbs, which I just like to go back to and keep refreshing. Literally just when it asks me to, when I've got some reminders up, I've done all the verbs. It's just nice to go back and go, yep, but, and just remind myself. Every day, a little bit, sinks it into your head. It's kind of the way I'm doing it with the Spanish as well. In that sense, is I'm trying to absorb it naturally and in a steady pace without having to try and rush to try and learn. Because I find that when I'm rushing myself to try and I've got to learn this or I've got to do this, then it's a very unnatural learning process for me. And I find it's almost like when you study for an exam. If I study for an exam, I find it really difficult to gain that information to be able to then use it. I find that I learn much better over time with experience and exposure. So yeah, it's Memrise is a brilliant thing because you can just, it's very lightweight and you can just go in there and it'll give you the words which you need to remember again or to refresh in your memory. So yeah, it's brilliant. Other than that, it's going to be another busy week. I've got lots of work on, and just getting through, seeing how we go, and I think that's it. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. It wasn't too rambly, hopefully. There was a few tangents though, especially for you, Polyglot Mum. And yep, we'll see you again next week. Please like, comment and subscribe, and have a great week, guys. Goodbye.